Robschild, nothing I say is investment advice. Welcome to the show where we view financial markets through crystal ball gazing. JP Morgan once said, millionaires don't need astrologers, but billionaires do. And so we begin. Today is Tuesday, April 23rd, 2024. Flash PMI came out today. Flash meaning that they only have it's based off of 85 to 90% of the surveys done of managers in services and manufacturing. And they get a randomized group of people basically to get these numbers, and whenever it's below 50 it means that it's in a contraction, and whenever it's above 50 it means it's in expansion. And so the last month we had the numbers over here, 51.7 in services, 51.9 in manufacturing. The expected was 52 and 52 to go up, but instead both of them went down. We had the actual services at 50.9 and the manufacturing at 49.9. Whenever looking at this data, I think it's very important to kind of zoom out to get a bigger perspective here. And so from ycharts.com, you can see, we're not really moving anywhere interesting. Overall, though, I wanted to mention that for a long time people have been talking about how hot the job market is and how it just won't crack, it won't give up. And I'll just notice that, as a chart for the PMI anyway, it has been trending lower and lower, dipping below 50 every once in a while, but still solidly above 50. And then in the manufacturing, interestingly, we have what I see as the opposite. We kind of looks like we hit a bottom here, and it looks like we've been trending up. And so we'll see how that plays out and affects things. Headline I wanted to mention: Tesla reports biggest revenue slide since 2012 and announces renewed push for affordable model, and their stock is up, I guess because of what Elon was talking about. As of this recording, Tesla shares in the aftermarket are up over 8%, and I find this funny. We have the biggest revenue slide since 2012, and yet we have the stock popping up here. Again, Tesla, a lot of companies, there's so much speculative value priced into these things that it's just gambling. It's just like guessing what other people might think the company might be worth in the future. It's not based on any fundamentals, and it's a silly game I like to stay away from but pay attention to. Later this week, very importantly, we have Thursday Q1 GDP and Friday PCE. We also have some important other earnings coming out later this week. Notably, Facebook, Meta, Google, Alphabet, why are they changing their names? Anyway, Roku, and Microsoft, among others. As I've been mentioning, beginning of the earnings season, and some big boys coming out this week. Moving on, we have the S&P 500. This is what I would call an inside week so far. And so this overall still looks like a very bearish pattern. The daily wasn't all that interesting. I'm starting to look at this from lately more so at a weekly time frame to see if this bear market continues to have legs. I mentioned in yesterday's show, I noticed how we had finally broken a pattern of higher highs and higher lows in the VIX, how options contracts are priced, and we had that higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, and then yesterday we broke that pattern. We had a new low, so a lower low, from what we call, this being the last low. And of course, it kind of was expected here. I said yesterday I was thinking like maybe we would head down back to this line. Looks like we're headed there. Worth reviewing, yes, we're still in fear mode. However, my other fear and greed indicator that goes to cash when it sees more problems recently flipped back to 100% into stocks, so I found that to be interesting. HYT, risky bonds. These are smaller companies that have to pay more to borrow money at higher rates. This fund can yield oftentimes around 10%, and it was breaking down. I didn't expect it to go up this high, but yesterday I said that, you know, maybe we could see a retest of the bottom of this candle here, and you know, I'm not all that surprised. The closing price was actually at the exact bottom of this tail of this candle here. That you know, in a way I see that as kind of a returning to the scene of the crime kind of a thing. We're unable to hold above that. Plus this is a hangman candle, and so it's expected I expect this to roll over here again, especially considering the strength of these three candles, which I am interpreting as three black crows. I don't even know if it's exactly correct, that pattern. This candle should probably be the first one more solid red, but this is what I see with my crystal ball. I wanted to share the SQQQ, the opposite of the Qs. Qs, or the NASDAQ, went up by about 1.6% today, crashing this short that I had been talking about for so long, 4.5%. I got out. You know, it's funny, like days like today, I'm glad I got out when I got out. I was a pig, I got fat, and I wasn't a hog, and I'm not getting slaughtered, and I'm sleeping well at night. I sold out of this fund actually at the price of $12.12, and we're now once again below that. And like I've been saying, things never really go in a straight line, and I did that trade pretty well. You know, I'll admit it's not the healthiest thing to like feel out like, oh, did I do the right thing there? It is and it isn't, because a lot of the times, you know, it's like, oh, if I had just held on longer, I would have done well. But and then other times it's like, oh, you know, it confirms that you did do the right move. But both of those kinds of feelings are not really very wise. It's better to be using your head and your plans and being like, this is how I do things, this is how I get in, this is how I get out. And you know, what happens is, you know, we end up getting into these emotional swings, and then, you know, before you know it, the market is tossing us around and we're losing on every trade we make. That's how I see it anyways. That's all I really have for today's show. Again, overall, I'm bearish, but we do also need to look out for Thursday's Q1 GDP report coming out on Thursday, and the PCE, personal consumption expenditures, coming out on Friday, as well as those big earnings of Microsoft, Google, and Facebook. Hope you enjoyed the show. Thank you for watching. Robschild.